Hi everyone, welcome to our second session for today, Print, Electronic, Digital and OTT, the big fight for consumer media. Before I introduce the speakers for this panel, I'd like to thank our sponsors and partners on behalf of everyone at IIBS. Thanking the presenting partner Magnon Group, our media partners Newsx and Brand Equity, digital partner Alt Balaji, knowledge partner TAPI Management Institute Manipal, talent partner Talent Track, event partner CPM, online media partner Talent Town Magazine, publishing partner Tree Shade Books, and process partner Nine Triangles. Let me now introduce the speaker plus moderator for this session, Mr. Nitin Naresh, Managing Director at Magnon TBWA. Among the firstborn of the digital agency ecosystem in India, Nitin is a marketing communications professional for the last 19 years. Nitin has been with the Magnon Group all through his professional being and currently serves the organization in the capacity of its managing director. From joining a startup early on to leading an ACE creative agency under the Omnicom Group, Nitin loves to stay hands-on with key relationships of the agency. His deep understanding of the digital-first marketing ecosystem has resulted into creative disruption for numerous brands. Welcome, Nitin. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Bhakti. Thank you so very much. And I must say, you have been giving a perfect start to these sessions. So great job in there.
Thank you so much. Would you like to introduce your co-panelists?
Yes, of course, I will. Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, thank you, IIBS, for this opportunity. And thank you, everyone who has joined in here and spared their time on a working day. Of course, first things first, let me begin with introducing some of the very accomplished professionals and market leaders we have with us who are gracing the panel today. Lloyd Matthias, Debasmita Majumdar, and Manoj Lalwani. And I must make a quick recitation about all our personalities, on the screen today. To begin with, Lloyd over the last 3 decades has held leadership roles in various Fortune 500 companies in India, in APAC region, from being the executive vice president of marketing at Pepsi to country sales director at Tata Docomo, and then moving on to head of marketing for HP's PC business across Asia Pacific region. But Lloyd seems to have done it all. And in 2007, he was also named among the world's top 15 marketeers by International List magazine. So that's a big achievement in there. And in the recent years, I think Lloyd got bored, or maybe was finding the roles too trivial, and which is where I think he has assumed a more holistic role over the last few years. He's now a board member to very many startup organizations. He is actively consulting them as a business marketer and strategist, and largely in the technology and consumer internet space. And of course, he has been smart enough to also be an angel investor into some of the better startups in this space. So welcome, Lloyd. I'm so looking forward to hearing you.
Thanks, Nitin. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. And then we have with us Debasmita Majumdar, on the screen. Debasmita is a marketer with a passion for sports. She has played professional tennis for over 10 years. And no wondering in there, even professionally, she has been associated with sports-based companies, like Sony 6, Sony Kicks. If you get the difference, Sony 6 and Sony Kicks. And Puma, of course, right? Her body of work at Puma includes milestone campaigns. There is Suede Gully, which was the only Indian campaign to be shortlisted for Cannes in 2018. And then there was the campaign called #DoIt, which broke the Guinness record in 2016. So the great stuff in there. There was Smita. She has recently moved into her present role as head of marketing and PR at Porsche India. This is the very first stint with the automotive industry, but I'm sure no less exciting than the others. And interestingly, Debasmita has also worked with a few global networked creative and marketing communication agencies. That includes Weber Shandwick, there is Genesis Marcella, there is MSL. For a fair part of her career. So with her on the panel, we have someone who knows the inside story on both sides of the table, and I'm sure will be justified, in her comments on commenting on the client side and the brand side of the game. So it will be interesting to pick up on your mind, Devasmita. Welcome on board.
Thank you, Nitin, for the gracious introduction, and looking forward to the chat.
Sure. And then, of course, there is Manoj Lalwani. Manoj, welcome again on the panel. I heard you yesterday, and it was great, a session with Naved. Thank you very much. Manoj, to quickly summarize about Manoj, most of us will know him already from yesterday even. Manoj is a seasoned professional, over a decade and a half of experience in the FMCG sector, in media broadcasting sector. He has been part of the force behind the launch of two very interesting Indian startups, McVitie's Biscuits and Cream Bell. And we all know they're massively successful brands, and I like the butterscotch flavor, Cream Bell. So I kind of like that. In his current role, Manoj spearheads the overall marketing function at Reliance Broadcast Network Limited, RBNL. For those who may not be familiar with this name, I will give you another name to it. RBNL is one of the largest radio networks with 58 stations in the country. More popularly, the brand is known as 92.7 Big FM, and that again turns out to be my favorite personal. When it comes to the genre of music, flavor of music. So welcome to IIBS once again, Manoj. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nitin. Thank you so much. Looking forward.
Pleasure. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before to set the topic running and get our audiences to gain from your knowledge and experience. I wanted to set the tone for today's discussion, for today's topic. I feel there was a need for it, so I will take maybe a minute or two to kind of get the tone, and then we can maybe move in the direction. And I think personally also I did share this with all of you at backstage also with chatting. So the topic says print, electronic, digital, and OTT, the big fight for consumer media. That's where the topic resides. Now, for as I see it, there are two facets to this topic. The more obvious one is the decade-old fight among various consumer media channels. Print, TV, OTT, radio, digital. OTT being the latest entrant in this whole game. Wherein every medium is trying to grab hold of the consumer base, get a bigger slice of the consumer media pie. Maybe even increase the size of the pie in itself. That's been the conventional side of things, right? And then there are new media ways of digital and OTT, primarily dependent on or primarily riding on the factors of relevancy, of interactivity, of objectivity. That they get to kind of score over the more conventional mediums of consumer media, right? Digital and OTT were already gaining more ground, were already seeing growth, and then came the COVID situation, which has only accelerated their growth even further, right? So in the conventional manner of fight for the consumer media, honestly, as I think, and that is my view, it's not anymore a question of before and after. It's become a question of before and faster now. Because digital and OTT and social media have kind of got a undue advantage, if I may say, due to the COVID situation. So that is one way to look at things, which is the conventional way, and that had happened. However, the other way also is, which is more interesting, more compelling to today's topic, is the sudden dramatic changes, that we all have experienced in our lives over the last nine months. Now, this has led to a big shift with regards to how consumers, today's buyers are consuming, media. And no surprise, consumer media consumption has turned upside down, in very many ways, in more ways than ways than one. Many of the trends that we are now seeing were already somewhere bubbling under the carpet. We kind of knew OTT is going to have a big run, in the space, right? But like I said, with COVID, it just advanced the whole onslaught of OTT, in the consumer media space. I think that's where it is. So we can safely divide the whole consumer media fight, the core topic of today's discussion, into two eras: pre-COVID and post-COVID. The $1 million question here will also be, whether we will go back to the old normality once the COVID is over, or largely over, or we have fully learned to live with COVID, or will this new normal be the normal going forward, right? And as I say, as the humankind is now starting to receive COVID vaccine, perhaps now is the time to discuss this big fight for consumer media in the post COVID era. That's the facet I just wanted to share with everyone and bring in that context. Now, like we all know, we have Lloyd, we have Debos Mehta, we have Manoj, all of them minds behind creating many of those very visible consumer campaigns that, for numerous brands that we've seen and we know of throughout their professional journey. So, it will be great to hear from you all on this burning topic in the marketing ecosystem. And to begin with, and throw the house open to you all, Lloyd, can we turn to you for your initial thoughts on the subject here?
Thanks, Nitin. Yeah, I think the last 10 odd months have been things that none of us really expected or prepared for. And there are these ever so often there are these moments that come, let's say in our lives that kind of change things dramatically. They say that the attack on the World Trade Center in the US really impacted airport security in a manner that has changed since, right? The seriousness with which airport security is breached is taken. More recently, let's say when demonetization happens, suddenly the digital payments or the mobile payments ecosystem became real, right? That is, most of us kind of had opened a digital account and suddenly we began using it. I think what COVID has really done, and looking at the lens of marketing and business, I think it's changed media consumption habits quite dramatically. Who would imagine, about a year back that Zoom calls would be par for the course among families, right? Many of us have been in Zoom calls with grandparents well into their 80s, right? Which about a year back would have been a bit of a joke. Similarly, in terms of let's say even newspaper consumption, right? A lot of us maybe on this panel are the folks who would subscribe to a newspaper and would wake up to the idea of a printed paper. But the months of April, May, June, the early days of the lockdown really taught us that a newspaper does not have to be in print format, right? We started using it on e-papers, on PDF and such like. So I think there have been dramatic shifts in terms of behavior and media consumption. I would say the real big shift or the big advantage has come in favor of digital. OTT, for one, has grown dramatically. I think in terms of the amount of people who now consume media through digital formats have grown exponentially. And I think more traditional media, print to an extent has got impacted. I would say out of home to a large extent has got impacted. So I think those are shifts that have happened. I think what has really separated, smart brands are the ones who have quickly kind of pivoted or moved with the times. One, in terms of distribution, right? So when the traditional stores closed in the early days of the lockdown, a lot of guys kind of went the online way. I think similarly, in terms of digital, I think it's about brands that have quickly kind of climbed the hill. Those are the brands that have been able to actually, kind of transit this process very well. And as marketers, I think it's also about the ability to actually navigate this ecosystem and make communication far more real-time, far more communicative, far more responsive. So not the old silos of campaigns that took weeks to build up. Now it's pretty much having live and real.
I think we lost. Am I the only one who's
Yes,
not able to hear? Okay.
No, I am not able to hear either.
Okay.
I think, Lord, we've lost you. We'll wait for you. Anyways, while Lloyd resumes, Manoj, can we hear you for a while?
Okay. I think Lloyd raised a couple of very valid points that yes, we are seeing a change in media consumption habits, and COVID or pandemic has only accelerated this process. I mean, the process of adopting digital, the process of adopting to newer formats and platforms. And in my view, these are all going to stay. I'm sorry, Lloyd is back. Do you want to finish with Lloyd? And Lloyd, I'm sorry we lost you. So
no, Manoj, I'm sorry. I was
then
pretty
want
much
me
at
to
the end of
start?
what I was to say.
Please kill
Sorry
him.
about
Don't
that.
kill
I'm on a
me for
weak
this.
connection. I had to move. I live in Delhi. I'm currently
Right.
in, deep
No,
in
sure.
the
I'm sorry. Do you want to finish first and then maybe? I'm sorry to jump in.
No, I'm pretty much said the piece. So please go ahead, Manoj. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So yeah. So I think like Lloyd mentioned, yeah, yes, people are adopting to, and the adoption has been far more faster. People have adopted to newer formats and platforms. Digital and OTT, of course, have gained a lot during these times, and the traditional mediums have lost a lot during these times. But my view is that as things open up and as things start coming back to life, and I'm very confident, and I hope that it all starts happening very soon. We all miss our handshakes and hugs with our colleagues and friends. So I hope that it all comes back very soon. But yeah, as things start coming back, uh, there will be still some people who will continue to, not go to their modern retail stores and shop from online. There will be people who will continue to not go to a cinema and maybe watch a lot of movies on, OTT. An OTT will definitely adopt premiering far more movies. A Geo talking about 5G will definitely see us far more premieres happening on OTT platform than traditional way, which is in fact which is in fact good for content creators, for consumers. But what is very important in this is that brands uh, take note of this movement that consumer is having, especially traditional media brands like print, the business we are in, radio, television. They realize how consumers are being platform agnostic now for content consumption, and they make their moves to make sure that they don't lose relevance and they stay ahead and move with the times, and continue to reach out to their consumers. So yeah, each platform and brand will need to make sure that they read these trends right. They are ahead of the curve. Otherwise, there is a big chance of missing out this bus if the brands don't sort of take cognizance of this movement that is sort of only accelerated in last, I would say, 8 to 10 months.
Absolutely, Manoj, and I have kind of noted what you just said. Uh, Platforms, more conventional, older platforms like print, TV, even radio, they need to take cognizance of the fact of changing, behaviors and patterns and multi-screen, multi-options, and how these businesses need to kind of converge and alter their strategy to stay relevant and survive and succeed eventually. So absolutely, I've taken note of that. I did have a pointer in that direction. While making notes, I will come back to you on this. I have a question for you in there.
Okay.
But looping Debusmita into the conversation. Just the way Manoj you said, the content creators or platforms like uh, the radio needs to kind of take into consideration the changing habits and changing patterns of consumers. Similarly goes for brands also, or the business side of things also, the advertisers, right? And which is where Devasmita, I hope your cam is off. I hope you are able to hear us.
She's just put on the chat that she's going to be out for 5 minutes, I think so.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Anyways, so we'll patch with Devasmita once she's back. Manoj, so continuing this conversation, then I will put this forth to you.
Okay.
Right. Like you said, the medium of radio is under pressure, like the print and prime time. And I'm not sure if there is a term prime time even now. Even if it exists, because it's 24/7 by now. And radio is most consumed on road, as I believe. I had consumed like that, and the world without a warning went off the road. uh, at least I used to listen to radio while on the move, and I haven't listened to radio for last 9 months because I haven't been on the road. Right. So that is one way. That is one reality that is with you in your business, your category. Then on the other hand, we are talking RBNL. The full form is Reliance Broadcast Network Limited. And Reliance is known to change the market dynamics single-handedly and even create a new market. Whenever it wants to, almost at will. If I may, with a pinch of salt. Now, so I believe on one hand you have a tremendous challenge, as the category. On the other hand, you have big brother sitting at the back, wherein resources and energy and intent and stuff like that, or being able to shake things around is possible. Like I said, single-handedly, I use that word. How do you think big FM will play it out in to stabilize, in my opinion, the seemingly dwindling share in the consumer media space right now? And also, how does the road look ahead? I mean, we just don't have to survive; we also have to succeed and progress hereafter. So, how do you think you're going to handle that now and here on?
Sure, sure. First of all, I'm sorry, Debosmita, I took your screen time. I'm being picked every time somebody gets logged off. So I'll take 5 minutes, not more, to answer this one. Nitin, one of the interesting facts is, and I know that we as consumers, us four, and a lot of people who are on this call listening to us, seeing us, we all listen to radio while we are on the move, while we are driving, and so on and so forth. But the fact is that radio, even before pandemic, our 65% listenership was in home. There was only 15 to 18% listenership, which was in car. Okay, so and as lockdown happened, we did a study so lockdown happened in March. We did a study towards end of April and May. In-home listenership from 65% went up to 87%. So the entire 15-18% that was listening to radio in the car or on their move started listening to radio at home. In fact, we in our business call these 8 months as the golden hour for radio, because our listenership went up by 23%. And I'm not saying about but overall industry as well. Of course, we've done really well in this time. We were able to manage to jump up our ranks far more than the competition. But as an industry overall, we saw double-digit growth in terms of people listening to us and a double-digit growth in terms of people spending time listening to radio. So, from listenership and time spent listening point of view, this was a golden hour for us. So it's a myth that, radio had challenges in terms of listenership in last 8 months, because, the fact is that there was a limited listenership in car. And that too also now is back, because if you actually step out and drive out to go for meetings, it will take you as much time as it would have taken you in February, March. So there are enough cars and people on the road already back. So listenership is not an issue. I think what is important for us is to, like I said, understand where consumers are moving now to create content. We are a part of audio content sort of ecosystem. Initially, there was only radio. About 2-3 years back, we started seeing the Spotify's and Ghana, the audio streaming apps coming into picture to consume audio content. Now there is Spotify. Now we hear of a lot of people listening to podcasts. Now there is an Alexa who came into our life about a year back. So there are people who are talking to Alexa and consuming content, jokes and songs on Alexa as well. So the audio consumption ecosystem is growing bigger, and people are moving beyond, the terrestrial radio to consume content. And that's the fact that we have taken notice of. Just to tell you some actions that we have done to make sure that we don't get redundant, and we're all hoping that we're moving in the right direction. So we ventured into online radio in May, June. We accelerated our plans and we got into online radio. So there is we have a brand called Big Radio Online Pro, which is an online radio now, can be accessed via a web platform anywhere. We ventured into that. We started converting our radio content into podcasts and started building partnerships with audio streaming platforms like Spotify, like Ghana, like Avaz, started distributing our content onto these platforms. And as we speak, two of the top 10 trending podcasts on Spotify from last 3 months is of Big FM. So, we are making sure that people consume our content wherever they're going. We've started building skills on Alexa about 2 months back. And now we are looking at building a channel on Alexa, a Big FM channel on Alexa, where we will start populating our top content, not the music content because there are rights and all that stuff, but we'll start populating our top content on Alexa. So what we're doing is we're taking our content and we are now also becoming in a way a media agnostic brand so that consumers and people can consume our content. It also gives opportunity for the advertisers, see, because our only source of revenue is advertisers. So it also gives the advertisers to see us as a one-stop shop, whether they want to advertise on radio or onto audio streaming or onto, say, a smart speaker universe like Alexa and Google Assistant, so on and so forth. So we are making strides to make sure that we become an audio entertainment company rather than just a radio company. So we're making strides into that direction, and yeah, hope it all comes all together well.
Super. Very well said and articulated, Manoj, and the reasoning in there. To support this, I can almost recall. I do hear HTs, and maybe it is Big FM or a couple of other channels who have now started to push their banner ads and video advertising on their channels. So a radio saying that we do have a substantial traffic to our web portal, maybe because of the online radio, and they say, like you advertise on any other website, you can pick some banner spots and video advertising spots even on our platforms. Is that a segment that a portion of consumer media, again, it is inspired by digital, it's absolutely inspired by the Google display network, consumer media kind of a thing, right? Is that a segment which is of focus for Big FM, and do you think there is merit in going that direction for channel, or is it too late by now, captured?
See, unfortunately, in India, the the digital revenue is still sort of our per dollar CPMs are really low still. So the amount of money that you can take in this digital ecosystem is still limited. So in terms of revenue contributors, this will remain to be small for us. The other thing is that there is a larger video dependence when it comes to these platforms and this ecosystem. Our core strengths lie in audio.
Yes.
We have some video strengths, but there are other players like Filter Copy, TVF, and these players have larger video strengths than us. We have more audio strengths than video strengths. So we're trying to play to our strengths, not saying that this is not available while this is available, but our focus is to build our strengths in the audio ecosystem, and that's why the audio streaming ecosystem with Spotify, Gaana, Savan, Avaz, the Alexa, Google Assistants of the world.
Yes.
We're trying to build strengths in audio ecosystem. Video strengths remain, but our right to succeed in video strengths is far more lower compared to many other players in the market.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you for that. Devasmita, we really have to hear you now. And I say I'm a self-proclaimed automobile enthusiast. So the category is very close to my heart, and this thing. And I've always been wondering about this, and it's a perfect opportunity to hear it from the expert from the category. Now, automobiles. Automobiles have always had this notion of a very high notion of touch and feel factor, in their selling. So, and they've maintained it like this for the longest of time. Even at some point, another very sensitive category like a jewelry started selling online pretty well. And people are doing reasonably well. I've bought jewelry online, right? So even that started selling well online, but for automobiles. Now that's one side of story. Let's say the pre-COVID. The post-COVID truth is, few months into the pandemic and the resultant lockdown, we see how almost every automobile brand shifted gears, opened its shop online, started selling online. And some of these models, that I've checked, are actually very neatly created. The online shop models, they are, if not maximize the experience, or at least least compromise the experience of walking into a showroom and buying a high involvement category like automobiles, right? And does also follow the what is a reconfiguration of the consumer media in this space, because of these. Now, my question to you is, did we, and like I said, you speak on behalf of the maybe industry, did we really need a pandemic to uh, make this shift into effect at the automobile industry? And more specifically, how has Porsche dealt with it, over the last over this year?
Sure. Firstly, I want to correct one thing. I'm not an expert because I'm very new in this industry, and I'm just going to share some
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
observations and learnings I've had. So addressing your question, talking about the whole shift, as you know, a automobile will always continue to be an experience-driven purchase, right? Because you don't buy it for the look of it. It's where it is a driving experience, and that's really the key reason why somebody prefers a certain car over another. Of course, the look is important. The feel is very critical. The driving experience. So that will never go,
Yeah.
and one would always want to. And if that is the USP of your product, if the driving experience is the USP of the product, you want your consumer to experience it. So that aspect will always stay. Now, what COVID has done is created a situation where one had to think out of the box, where the dependency of a business in a certain aspect, when it's completely taken away, you have to find other ways to make things work. And as you work along, you realize whether this is doable or not doable, and with to what extent and with which products it's doable. So today, even if, as you spoke about jewelry, it's not that all kinds of jewelry will be sold online. There'll be certain product line, probably they will use it for, selling it online, in terms of, where it could sit. Similarly, even for automobile, like even for especially a luxury car, actually the ecosystem and the way it operates is again a little different from the rest of it, right? Because it's a very engagement driven, it's a very high purchase buy, and the consumer would want to spend a lot of time and look at every aspect of it before, going ahead and making that purchase. But probably what we noticed during COVID is, of course, for the first time doing a digital sort of a communication, which was never done before, because it's always about experience, about engagement, about events. And funnily enough, I mean, it was a learning. The whole bit was about learning that digital in luxury, how do you really operate? And what we have seen is, in the last 4 months, especially if we look at the numbers which has come in now in terms of the order intakes and the kind of retail that has happened, it has surprised us. Some of the numbers have been as good as 2018. So while what COVID has done is really opened up another avenue to kind of market the product and engage with the consumer. But this is not to say that this is going to be the only way. Now you have a media mix. Now you have a bigger opportunity, a bigger pool, a more probably holistic media mix to play with. Probably that is what is going to be the trend post COVID, where you look at everything and create something a more holistic than it was before COVID, or was what it is during COVID, is what my thought is.
Okay. Thank you very much for that background. So, are you meaning that while the automobile brands will now here on continue to sell online, with these new mediums, and these are here to stay, but consumer will once again resume flocking those expensive, starry car showrooms, and maybe newspaper front pages will announce new car launches again? Is that something that you think?
I think definitely, see, in terms of the media, about whether the newspaper is going to see the front page would really depend on a certain category or a certain brand. It's a very personal call. But as the overall human behavior of wanting to go and experience a product and going to a showroom before investing, I would say yes. Because I think while today we spoke about, it's a human behavior, right? Today we're speaking about, we're used to talking on the Zoom with our friends and family as a way of socializing. But the day there is opportunity to step out, would we choose interacting over Zoom? I would assume no. So I think same with in terms of behavior of
With
of
of the
going
consumer as
out
well.
and making it would be pretty similar. So I'd say that one would, but it is always good to know that there is another option for whatever reason. If I'm
Yes.
not able to do it, there is another option there for me,
So
and
that's
that
a very,
option
very,
doesn't seem as
yeah,
distant anymore.
very interesting point you made in there about the choice,
Yes.
and given a choice, a Zoom or a meeting in person.
Yeah.
Lloyd, taking your views on similar lines now, your experience, uh, of rolling out 4 high impact 30 seconders at Pepsi in a year, to championing 40, dishing out 40 campaigns annually at Hewlett Packard, which are more digital centric, which are more now campaigns. And yesterday also in one of the sessions it was being discussed, celebrities not being engaged for on annual basis, brand ambassadors, but on weekly basis or per post basis. So 4 high impact 30 seconders to 40 campaigns in a year. Uh, it seems digital social is clearly winning the fight in consumer media, right? Do you think conventional media is too late to make any amends, or is it just a momentary phase, and it will radio print will indeed remain integral part of the marketing gamut, and very important one at that?
I think the concept of mixed media is real now, Nitin. The fact is that the younger generation, a lot of them are fundamentally digital first. But what digital has done, and to kind of bring your question center space, in a sense, is that at one time, let's say big brands,
Yeah,
when I started my career in Pepsi, we typically worked at mega campaigns, which were researched, and you built it out of consumer insight. You got the big time filmmakers making those
absolutely.
commercials. Now the speed of launches happens is much faster. So typically, and let's say at my last role at HP, like I said, we did about 40 odd campaigns a year. One is because the pace is increased, but more importantly, I think with digital, what happens is that you're doing a lot of diffused communication. You're talking to various segments of consumers, and therefore
Yes,
you have the opportunity to tailor make your communication to suit different consumers. So I think the digital first is really about the speed, and also in terms of personalization that can be done, which in a sense mass media like television or to an extent print did not permit you to do. You're able to therefore segment your communication far more sharply. So I think that's one big plus. The other realization, like I said earlier, is also the new age consumer expects to have a conversation with the brand. It is not, a company and a brand broadcasting its point of view. It's very often reacting to people. So let's say in the printer category at HP, we obviously had consumers who were, not very happy with the price of the cartridges. Or,
yeah,
let's say a mobile phone brand, you get real time feedback. So you need to respond to those consumers real time. You need to find a solution with them. You need to keep them engaged. And I think, and that is the challenge that today a lot of businesses are, kind of coming to terms with, but not as well as we could. And therefore, my other point also is about the fact that are our creative partners and our agencies also ready for this leap, right? Because the traditional model of advertising is still the kind of creative prima donnas, right? The Piyush Pandays and the Prasoon Joshis, who
yeah.
are great.
Tell me more about it, because
I think,
for obvious reasons. Yeah,
yeah, and they really were good and they do great campaigns. But now it's about, if a consumer has something smart to say on Twitter, how soon can you respond to him and be kind of relevant to that target segment? Or, so I think a lot of mediums like Instagram, Twitter, a lot of social media, platforms give the opportunity for real-time, meaningful, relevant communication. And that takes a different creative mindset. Not just from the creative agencies, but also from marketers and businesses in general. Because the baton of control is now passing actually from, a brand manager and a category manager effectively to consumers, and that is a very positive sign. So in a sense, I welcome it, and I think it's positive. And the last few months and this kind of COVID disruption has accelerated that process, right? The traditional media silos of print and television and outdoor and cinema and radio are now giving way to a slightly more fluid environment where digital is willy-nilly almost center stage.
Okay, thank you. Now you're consulting so many organizations, and I'm sure they are on the both sides of the table. They could be startups on the brand side, they could be startups even on the agency side. Maybe at times, we're in services and solutions. So, and again, because in the technology and consumer internet space is where your expertise lies and your interest lies largely. Um, is there any peep or insider information you can share with us, as regards consumer media creation, distribution, consumption trends? I'm sure you've come across a few startups that deal in this space. Anything what's coming up, a new business being built around some new trend?
Sure, Nitin. I think two things are coming out. I think one is the fact that the startup ecosystem, given their size and given their limited budgets, are critically dependent on digital. With that, there's one thing that they do a lot of, which is they work closely with digital agencies. They work with social media platforms and such like. The problem that I noticed, and something that I've been trying to help them resolve, is that a lot of digital marketing is really about likes, engagements, and such like. And what I kind of work closely with the founders is to say that until you tell your brand story with some emotion, you can't.
Am I not able to, or
I think I think we lost.
Sorry, am I back? I'm sorry.
Yes, you are back.
Maybe. Nitin, am I audible now? I'm sorry.
Yes, you are. Now you are. The only part audible is, am I audible?
Can you hear me at all?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I think essentially what I was trying to say was that you can't
Yes.
build a brand purely at the back of just digital transactional. You need to kind of build a bigger emotional level, which will take a little bit of a larger play. I think that's one aspect. The second point I also say is to dive deeper into digital metrics. Today, a lot of these so-called metrics, which is performance marketing based, could come from machine, could come from bots. And therefore, there is a need to kind of dive deeper and understand your digital metrics. So until you have a good, stronger engagement platform with the consumer on a slightly longer term basis, digital metrics may just be a short-term ploy and may not give you the desired impact for your business. Sorry about that interruption.
No worries. Thank you, Lloyd, for that. I have another aspect, and I think that's last set of questions. Maybe looking at the time, that I would want to, and we want to keep about 5-7 minutes for some questions coming in. Now the whole idea, again, my thought is that the COVID has had very visible impact on the way consumer media is now created, and we all kind of know this. COVID is here to stay, and maybe a phenomenon like this, God forbid, can happen anytime in the future. We all know this now, at least. Right? Also, a huge learning from the pandemic era is that humans can make do with lot less. I mean to say, less travel, less clothing. Sorry to say, but less automobiles, less outings. Right. So basically, a lot less of energy and resources. Now, this essentially implies, decreased buying and consumption in all spheres of life, and that puts a dual-edged pressure on the consumer media. Increased performance at decreased cost, because the marketing budgets are going to be smaller, and all that bit. So increased and performance is expected to be higher. So increased performance at decreased cost. Now, how do you think? I would want to, Manoj, if we may turn to you. How do you think in this context consumer media will evolve, and do you have an examples of how something same levels of performance is now being achieved in a much lesser cost, or vice versa?
No, I think at the heart, I'm an optimist. So I very strongly believe that as soon as things open up, this is all behind our back. We will love to go out.
Okay.
We will get back to our routines. In fact, as we speak, and I was trying to see if we can go out somewhere around the New Year's time. Everything is booked. All hotels are booked. Goa is all packed. Maharashtra around is all packed. People have started moving out. The first opportunity people are getting to get out, they are going out. And I strongly believe that as things open up more, we will want to get back to our life. I am dying for my son to go back to school and stop this online education. It's not helping any of us. So I think people will get back to their old routines. We would all love to go back to restaurants, to our pubs to have a drink, to coffee shops, to offices, to meet our friends outside and stop the Zoom calls like Debosmita said. Uh, so I think it'll all come back. However, there will be new behaviors that will continue. Um, People will continue certain things that they've learned and adopted from uh, these 8-10 months. So therefore, like I was saying earlier, it's important for brands to pick these new behaviors and trying to find opportunities in them or trying to tap onto them. These last 8 months have been, for me, opportunity mapping for a lot of brands and professionals and marketers and everyone. If you've been able to map your opportunities in last 8 months, you will be able to drive future growth. Not that old things are not going to come back. Yes, they're going to come back, but there are opportunities which are opening up, have opened up, and will open up as we go out of this situation. And those opportunities are different for different brands and verticals and sectors and businesses. We will have different opportunities than Devosmita will have, or Lloyd will have in their own respective fields. Idea is to map them, identify them, and work on them. But I truly believe that we will all get back to our old lives once again. I would love to do that.
Okay. In its usage, for obvious reasons, some reports said some 2000% increase in its usage, and likewise, right? And then there is Skype. Then there are more on personal front apps like House Party, right? Which kind of allows you to, I see nodding heads, so we know what House Party is.
Yeah.
So there are apps like these, that have seen tremendous growth. Now, unfortunately, all these platforms are run on non-ad revenue business, right? So there is no advertising running on Zoom. So for advertisers, while there is so much of new media consumption in a new way, there are no avenues to advertise. Similarly, more closer to home and closer to our discussion is the OTT platform. So while we do see the free run, that limited space on OTT, which anyone can just sign in and watch a couple of episodes or half the episode, right? But at some point, it does ping you to subscribe, and within that, the most of the usage of these OTT platforms is under subscription, which is, so again, the model is user subscription based revenue, not ad based revenue. How do you think advertisers or brands can still leverage, and you can't ignore the OTT consumption and the kind of time that is being spent on OTTs, by end consumers. So how do you think, Lloyd, if I may, because you've been consulting so much around, how do you think advertisers can leverage OTT, while it is a not non-ad revenue model?
Great question, Nitin. I think OTT is the new reality. Uh, just both video and audio. I mean, the amount of time, let's say, people today are spending out of traditional cable television into the Netflix or the Hotstars or the Amazon Primes, and similarly on the road, people listening to a Ghana or a Spotify or Apple Music. So I think that's real. I think looking at it in a traditional advertising silo of how can I plug in my scroller or how can I put in a interrupted ad may not be the right format. I think where these OTT platforms are, it's giving us great insights into consumers' behavior and consumption habits. And I think using those data points and that analytics to retarget that consumer on another platform like social media, or when he's consuming radio or television or print, would be one key way forward, right? The other one, which a lot of advertisers are exploring, is how to seamlessly get your product placed within that environment, right? So therefore, before a favorite song is played, if there's a small 3-second kind of insert, that works well with people, right? Similarly, in the context of some of the larger video platforms that people are watching, I think a lot of product placements are making a comeback. How do I make my product fit in seamlessly into this blockbuster production that Hotstar is about to produce or Amazon Prime is? Because that is giving you as much reach in a sense as traditional cinema, and in a far more receptive environment for the consumer. So I think it's about consumers, about advertisers being innovative, recognizing these new mediums are playing, let's say, a significant part of the new media, the consumer's new media consumption, and then trying to fit their product and their category seamlessly into it, as opposed to saying that, oh, I want to plug in a 30-seconder or I want to run that half page. How do you integrate it? And very often the best solutions come from people who work on these platforms, right? And Manoj will kind of resonate with this. But I remember when radio first started getting used, a lot of advertisers used their television commercials, audio tracks to plug onto radio, and then soon realized that that wasn't the best way. And then the moment they started speaking with radio stations and figuring out that RJs have their own popularity and they could weave their product story very effectively, that's when radio became real, right? So I think it's really owners of the platforms that can work seamlessly with advertisers to create new, interesting product formats that make this whole process so much more relevant and so much more easy for the consumer.
Just to add to what Lloyd said, we've been working with OTT players to try and leverage their audiences as well for last 6-8 months now. One of the big things that is emerging is branded content. That's a big area that's emerging, and I think a lot of brands are realizing it because, like you rightly said, Nitin, while there are paid VOD options, as they call it. There are subscription based options as well, where your opportunity to advertise are limited. That's a larger chunk which is growing, and so therefore branded content becomes very important to reach out to your audiences in a seamless way, in an integrated way on all these platforms. So that's another emerging space which I think will grow, and a lot of brands are taking cognizance of it and diving into this branded content space as well to reach out to these audiences.
Great, thank you very much. We are definitely running out of time. Last 10 minutes, some quick remarks. Debasmita, key consumer media trends that you think should be put into practice going forward. Just your objective answer to this.
I think, like we said, more branded content, more customized, more personalized communication. Because now, if you know your consumers' behavior and what they're doing and what they're consuming, you can really personalize the communication that's going out. And I think that's going to be very critical in the way we communicate.
Manoj, media platforms you think brands should focus on? I mean, are there any clear winners? Are there, or the choice of media platforms could vary from one advertiser to another?
No, I think I say this to everyone. Each media has a role to play, and your campaign will have an objective, and each media has a role to play. You need to marry them too. For a campaign, TV and print may work better. For a B campaign, a digital-only approach may work better, because each media has a role and they deliver to their strengths. There is
even for the same brand.
Even for the same brand, there are a bit of crisscrosses that happen, but each media plays a role. And a smart marketer, smart company, smart brand is who realizes what role each media plays. Like print has a great announcement value. Radio is a great engagement and an awareness building medium. TV is a great medium to build equity and awareness and reach. Digital is great to drive conversions, while there are other elements also that are driven, but there are some primary deliverables each media delivers. Take notice of that, realize them, and marry them to your campaign objectives. That is what one should do. There is no one answer fit for every situation, in my view.
Okay, Great, thank you. Lloyd, you've been on the brand side, most of the time, for the longest periods of time, here. Your preference of your agency partners, and I'll give you two choices, a brand specific experts or marketing communications experts.
This is beginning to resemble Karan Johar's rapid fire questions. So one is expecting a gift hamper, but that aside, great question. I think it's very difficult to kind of diverse the two, right? Clearly, with the agency, you expect a lot of smart, quick, tactical thinking of high creative impact. At the same time, you also want the agency to, in a sense, play up to the brand soul, right? So I think a mix of both. But if I can just amplify on a little point that both Debosmita and Manoj touched upon, I think in this new media environment, you also have to expect that consumers are consuming multiple media at a point in time. I could be watching, the IPL, or I could be watching the India-Australia cricket series. At the same time, I'm on my phone, on Twitter or WhatsApp, kind of exchanging, things with friends, or, tweeting about this new hashtag about how Hardik Pandya is going crazy, etc., etc. Similarly, I can be outside shopping with the family, and something can catch my fancy. So digitally, I could take a picture of this billboard or the shopping thing, and browse a bit, or compare prices. So I think the recognition that consumers are now consuming more than one media at a point in time is a reality. And I think a lot of us as marketers and business people have to come to terms with that. We need to give them opportunities to engage and indeed to share. Today, people love sharing, right? Today, you're seeing a lot of activism around on various things because it's so much easier to kind of, share a hashtag or light a virtual candle than physically go to a Jantar Mantar or India Gate, right? So I think the reality is that provide consumers opportunities to share. They want to have the point of view. Provide them something that they can participate in as opposed to giving them a single-sided message.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Lloyd. In there, last 5 minutes, let's try and pick a couple of questions. Maybe okay, I do see some on our roster here. I'm not sure who should it be directed to. So, okay, there's a question: is print media going to make over in future and retain its role like earlier, or digital would only be the left alone or preferred solution for brands to stick to? Anyone to pick an answer, please?
Okay, I'll just give it a small thing. I think print is far from dead. I think the credibility of brands like the Times of India, etc., are here to stay. I think the way they're disseminated is going to differentiate, right? So as opposed to physically printing 9 million copies, let's say what the Times of India did in January this year, I'm sure they're printing fewer copies. I think their ability to get out their content through other formats is going to be critical. And secondly, also the fact that while the paper was printed once a day and therefore you read it in the morning, I think the fact that they now have digital presence gives them the ability to kind of constantly update. So you can, in a sense, have 50 editions of the Times of India coming in once every hour, but each of them with a more relevant or a more current point of view. So I think it's how the print media uses its credibility, uses its history of, let's say, 100 plus years to kind of talk to the new age consumer that's going to make a difference. And therefore, print is far from dead. In fact, it could repurpose itself into far more meaningful ways of consumption, like the audio formats, for example.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Lloyd. Indeed, very well said. I think we've almost run out of question. I need to do some mandatories of thanking you all, and also thanking our partners.
I have a question from Debosmita, Nitin, if you have 2 minutes.
Oh yes, please, by all means.
Sure.
Hi, Debosmita. I don't think I'll be able to ever buy your brand in life, but I can at least say the name right. So how do you pronounce the name of your brand? I've heard 10,000 versions of it. What's the right one?
So the Germans call it the Porsche, but in America it's been pronounced as Porsche, which is also fine. So if you want to be like, it's like the British English. If you want to stick to the original way, it's Porsche. But Porsche is also fine. Anything else is not the right pronunciation.
So Porsche or Porsche, is it?
Yes, Porsche and Porsche.
Cool.
Porsche.
Manoj, on that note, I'm going to share with you. Sorry, I said on that note, I'm going to share a YouTube link with you, which is only about a person pronouncing names of very many automotive brands, because it's been a talk forever for ages. So I will share
You
that link
when
with you.
when you said share and took a pause, I thought you're gonna share a voucher or something to buy us a Porsche. To the long
I'm sure
pause.
very.
Got us excited.
I'm sure. I'm sure you never know in today's world you would be buying a Porsche very soon. Who knows if you really want it? I'm sure
Right. No, no, it's very
that'll
expensive. I
happen.
don't think next few years definitely not. Yeah.
But great. Thank
Great.
you all, Lloyd, Manoj, Devasmita. Thank you so very much
Thank you.
for
Thank you.
being here
Thank
and
you.
sharing your mind and sharing time for this. Also on behalf of the IIBS, our thanks to all the sponsors and partners. I will name a few. Presenting matter, Magnum Group. I belong to Magnum Group, but yes. Our media partners, NewsX and Brand Equity. Thank you so very much. Digital partners, Alt Balaji. They have been doing some fantastic work in the digital space. In any case, knowledge partners, TFI Management Institute, Talent Track, Talent Partner, Talent Track, event partners, CPM. Thank you. Online media partners, Talent Town, publishing partners, Tree Shade Books, and lastly, but not the least, our process partners, Nine Triangles. Thank you all so very much, and for your contribution, for your support. We will make this bigger in the years to come. It's been online, and I'm sure next year when we meet, we'll all be sharing a coffee and not on a Zoom call like Devasmita said. Thank you so very much. I think we should just sign off. Bhakti, do you have a closing remark here?
I just wanted to thank you all for joining in. And as we can see from the comments pouring in, the audience really enjoyed your session. And I wanted to tell the audience, thanks for attending the session. Please join us for the final session at 3 p.m. today on the topic Marketing in the New Age, Trends, Technologies, and the Adaptability of Brands.
Sure.
Hello.
Hello? Hello?
Hello. 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 Hello.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
हाय हेलो छोड़िए ऑल्ट बालाजी बोलिए आने वाले महीनों में एंटरटेनमेंट होगा बेशुमार
तुम मेरे पास वापस आओगी
I am never ever coming back.
मेरी स्टेटस में नहीं है कि मैं कोई भी तमाशा बीच में छोड़ दूं। मैं भास्कर शेट्टी।
लोग मेरे को बॉम्बे का राजा बोलते हैं
ये मुंबई है और मैं इधर का मुंबई।
कानून ने हमारे बाप की मौत का तमाशा बनाया था। बिच्छू की तरह डसेंगे सबको। अब शुरू होता है मेरा खेल, बिच्छू का खेल।
पावर पैसे और लेगेसी में नहीं है, असली पावर पॉलिटिक्स में है।
तो ये लोग प्राइम सस्पेक्ट्स हैं, नीलू, ग्रीष्मा, शशांक, कुश, योगेश, शमशेर सिंह और धवल।
Let's go.
ऊपर भगवान, नीचे राजा। भगवान सब जानता है।
ये सब मिलेगा at 80 पैसे पर डे तो बना लो घर बैठे बिंजिंग का प्लान चाहे हो मॉम डैड भाई और योर क्लैन
हेलो
2020 का एंड होगा झकास जब सारा घर करेगा बिंज बिंदास
फोन पे आलो आलो लगा रखे तुम बर्बाद कर दुनिया को ये फोन
ऑल्ट बालाजी